So Book of Samuel chapter 1 verse 1 to 11 I read it for you. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zubite from a hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zub, an Ephraimite. He had two wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to the Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her. And the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple in bitterness of soul. Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord, and she made a vow saying, O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servantess, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So again, first day for our lesson or the sermon series of the book of Samuel. When somebody come to me, hey, Pastor, I want to start reading the Bible. Where shall I start? If people ask me, usually I answer, start reading from Genesis or Matthew or book of Samuel. Genesis and Matthew makes sense because the first book of Old Testament and first book of New Testament. So if you want to start reading the Bible, if you don't know where you will start, reading from the beginning, right? Or either the first book of Old Testament or the first book of Matthew. But why do I bring up Samuel? Because it's exciting. It's like historical drama, right? All the funny story, heroes and wars, everybody fighting, like hero. It's like when I read like a story, it's like a Thor, movie Thor, like a David fight against Goliath. There are a lot of exciting things, right? I mean, basically, if you want to read about David, you need to read the book of Samuel. But they're more than David, right? The Samuel, the last two judges, first prophet, and then the one who oiled the first king of Israel, Saul, the Samuel story, and then fighting the battle against the Philistine, and the first king of Saul, the second son David, and all these the men, soldiers, and generous heroes, and they're like all the story. Like it's really historic drama, and it's really interesting. So I usually tell people, hey, Genesis or Matthew or the book of Samuel. Why don't you start from there? I never say start from Leviticus. You know what I mean, right? But there's an exciting book that I'm telling people to start reading if they want. I used to say like that, but recently I cannot tell people start reading Samuel anymore because I found it is a very difficult book. In the past, I thought it was exciting and easy, and it's a lot of the tales over there. But now I start feeling, no, this is a history. And then when I start reading book of Samuel history, it became very important to me. So let me remind you, the Bible, I think I showed you many times, there are 4 parts in the Bible, genre. First 5 books, Pentateuch, the law. And second part, from Joshua to Esther, we say this is a history. So the genre, there's a history in the Bible. and the literature, wisdom, literature, and the prophetic books. So law, history, literature, and prophetic books, these are the four parts of the Old Testament. And as you know, Samuel is in history. So when you read Samuel, you need to remember, one of the most important things you need to remember is, this is not a story. This is a history. Right? And at the center of Israel's history, how the kingdom was established, the history, what does that mean? What's the difference between story or tale or history? Let me help you. I believe you already know, but let me help you some easy example. I just pick up the one Korean folk tale. They said the golden axe and then silver axe. The reason I picked up this book, because whenever I remind, not today's chapter Samuel, but next book, First Kings, whenever I read the story about Solomon, it reminds me this Korean folklore. I don't know how many of you know that, but this Korean folklore book, children book says, there's a very poor woodcutter. He was a poor man, but he lived with his, the mother, but he didn't have a girlfriend because he was just so poor, but he was an honest man, right? That story go on, and then one day he went up to the mountain to cut the wood, and he had his own property, the iron axe. And during the wood cutting, he by mistake he threw into the pond, in the small pond, and then he lost it. And what? The mountain spirit all of a sudden came out with the golden axe and saying, "You just lost the axe. Is this golden axe yours?" And he's an honest man. "No, that's not mine." And then mountain spirit went back to the water and then came out again with the silver axe saying, "Is this yours?" And "No, it's not mine." And then at last bring this, the ugly iron axe. "Is this yours?" When the young woodcutter, this young man, honest man says, "Yeah, that is that ugly one, that iron axe is mine." And mountain spirit says, "Man of honest, good. I'm not only return to your, iron axe, I'm gonna give you a silver axe, I'm gonna give you gold axe, all three axes that I'm gonna give it to you." So this young man, because of his honest attitude, he received all this gift and then went back to home and served his mother, buying the new house and have the wife and happily ever after. That's a story, okay? You know that what I'm talking about, right? And there are stories in the Bible. Again, the reason I bring it up, the connection that I feel like Solomon. When Solomon was young, that God came up with his dream, right? And God asked Solomon, "What do you want? Tell me." And Solomon said, "I need a discerning heart to be a right king, to take care of your people. I want to be a right leader." And God was impressed. Wow, you didn't ask the life of your enemies. You didn't ask money or richness. You asked this right thing humbly. Then what? Not only give you the wisdom, I'm going to give you everything, right? So I'm going to give you your richness and wisdom. So the Solomon had a reputation that wisest king ever in history and the richest king in the history ever. So what a fancy story. And if you read the First King chapter 3, you can just read what I just shared about God appeared to Solomon's dream. Again, it just remind me that gold axe folklore story. And one more thing, if you read the First King chapter 3, right after this story about the dream that God appeared to him, there's a very famous story, the Solomon's court. You heard about that, right? Right after he received the wisdom from God, two moms came saying, "Oh, this baby is dead, is her baby, the live baby is mine." And then they were arguing each other. You all know that. I don't have to describe it, right? And Solomon made a perfect judgment. Okay, cut the baby into half and then give one to this mom and then the other mom. And the real mom didn't want it. And she said, "That's not my baby. It's okay. Give it to her. Don't kill the baby." And the Solomon found she's the right one. And everybody's surprised. Perfect wisdom, the discerning heart God gave him. So the First King chapter 3 show a story. When you say story, there's a message that's straightforward. There's a beginning, ending, and it's supposed to be a good story. And it is a good story that Solomon asked the right thing, God rewarded him, and there's a historical evidence how great he was. But what is the problem? We all know what's coming up next, right? This wonderful king, the son of the greatest King David, the one loved by God, the one received this wisdom and richness and this showed a perfect example. After that, what happened? He was corrupted. Unbelievable. He was corrupted and he started worshiping idol, and he actually did too much construction work and then oppressed the people, imposing too much taxes. So right after his generation and his son's generation, the country divided into two, northern Israel and south Judah, and actually he is the one who should be blamed. And we can ask, what kind of story is that? A good man, loved by God, once the great, but how come he fell down that far away? That is not story. That's a history. So history, you see, there is no exact cause and causality. The story we say, oh, the good people live the right, make the right decision, sacrificed her life, and then now the good reward come, right? That evil dude did that kind of a thing. They received what they ever earned, and then their end up is wrong. Like there's a lesson, straightforward story, and we won't be safe in the story. But as you know, history and reality, there's no clear order here. All historians, they say there's no principle in history. Why certain thing happened at that time? It's because of that person did something wrong. It was a consequence. It's like a lot of people try to find out principle in history. In a lot of religion and philosophy, they say causality or like karma, retribution, cause and effect. That they try to explain historical event, but as you know, not always. History, we don't know why that person at that time made that kind of a mistake or that kind of a decision to change the course of history. So why it come to this way, we have no idea, right? And again, it's not always good people will be rewarded and bad people will be punished in our history, in our real life. So it is important. We need to understand Bible is not story, but history. It's a real word. And if you want to know that, if you ask yourself, what do I read the Bible as a story or as a history? If you want to check it up, just to think about David. What story do you remember? Whenever you see the old children book, David, what? David and Goliath. If you remember David and Goliath first for David, you still read the Bible as a story. The good story, a young hero, the step up in history, and then though he was weak with the power of God, he killed, this evil giant and become a hero. That's a hero story. That's what we all want. We want our life to be like that, right? There's some problem in the church, there's a struggle, and nobody knows what to do. And a young man, college man, stepped up, hey, let's rely on God, let's do this thing, and then everything's solved well. We went to the mission trip, and when there's some trouble, when nobody knows what to do, there's one girl who really trusts God and come up, and then I prayed and God answered. Yes, that story we want. But, when Bible remember David, David's story, but later in New Testament and other books in the Bible, they keep talking about David. No place, surprising, no place. Later generation, when they talk about David, they don't talk about David and Goliath at all. There's only one. Once when it happened, they talk about it. But later when they remember, nobody remembered David as a hero to kill the Goliath. We think that's the most important one, but not. A lot of places in the Bible when they talk about David, we talk about actually, surprisingly, David and Bathsheba. And David's painful mistake, history, David and Absalom. And when you think about David, if you remember that his mistake, his failure, so that the evil spinal chain, the following in his family, how much he suffered, he went to the bottom, and there how he responded. If you remember story like that more, then now you are reading the Bible as a history, the reality, right? Now we have a big problem here, the Christian problem. We know we do not live a story, but we live in history. We know things going wrong. right? Somewhere in the world, the people dying without reason, innocent people suffer, and somewhere people got car accident without reason. Even though some good pastor after church worship, when they go home, sometimes they died because of a car accident, or the good people got cancer. We all know that's the reality. But we wanted to live in story, which means, God, I know all these bad things happen in the world. Somebody's family is broken, somebody have a domestic violence, somebody has a car accident, somebody have a cancer, somebody in the poor country in the world, but don't let me go through. I want to live peacefully in my life with my family. Do not let bad things happen in my life and to the people that I love. We dream story, not a history. And you know what? We use God for that. God is the one who will guarantee my story. I don't want cruel reality. The bad thing happen. That might happen to the people, other country or other place. But those bad things which are actually real, God, you're the one who protect me, so not those bad things happen in my life. Don't you pray like that? So we are using our God to create our story. You know, have you ever heard the Peter Pan syndrome? You know, the Peter Pan syndrome means, you all know that, right? Peter Pan, he is a forever child, never grow up. A lot of Christians never grow up. They never actually come to the real world because they keep saying, God, let me stay here, protect my life, make this greenhouse, and let me live that. I feel your love in that way. And you know what is the problem in that case? We're always nervous. There's no peace. Because God who protected my family, my life last year, will God do the same way this year? So this year, while the bad thing happened here and there, all those bad things might not happen in my life, in God's protection. We're always nervous if it will happen or not. And the worst thing, when bad thing happen, we blame God. We thought you're going to protect me. We thought, bad thing happened. But that's those who do not believe. But because I believe in you, so I thought all those things will avoid me, escape me. In your protection, I live this world of story. Not everything's forward. No unfair, injustice things happen, but I want to live peacefully. So whenever bad thing happen, Christians shocked. And they ask, what was God doing? How could that person get cancer? How could that thing happen, right? You know, recently I heard some YouTube message, YouTube testimony, and it was a testimony of good, renowned pastors in Korea. And surprisingly, all of them were pastors' kids. So, you know, PK, right? And all of them, they say, we deserted God. We were so angry at God, disappointed at God when we were young. Why? Because a lot of pastors' kids, they have grown up watching their parents, who's a pastor, also suffered so much. So a lot of PK, pastors' kids, grown up saying, why my father served God so well as a pastor, but his life is tough. Why we are always, poor? What was God doing? I was so angry at God, so I left the church. I lost my faith. So many people. Very common story. You heard about that, right? What? Their father or their mother who served the Lord, they could deal with this real world with God. But children, they didn't grow up that much. So children just think, well, if my parents serve the God well, our life should be protected by God. They still live in story. So they were tested. Isn't that your word? You still want God make my life a story. Only the good thing, happily ever after. Not, the bad ending like this. Please help me like that. Isn't that what's going on in our life, right? But again, important thing is Bible. As we start this reading book of Samuel, one thing that I want to start with you, let's remember this is a history. In history, God works. And we are not satisfied the way God works. And there is not clear story that we want why the bad thing happened even in the people of God. Like again, when we read the David, it's not like he is a servant of God, so all the bad thing did not happen to him while it happened to other people, and David was perfectly protected by God. Do you know any biblical heroes' life like that? There's the opposite. All the biblical heroes or heroines, they went through a lot of difficulties. Not only they went through difficulties, they made a mistake. They failed. And we thought, whoa, did King David really do it? Or why did King Saul, who was picked up by God, ended up that way? Samuel made that mistake. We're all surprised because it's not story, but it's real history. That's what Bible is. Bible reporting everything's real. Then people might ask, then why should we read the Bible? Why should we believe in God? Whether we believe in God, what happened to everybody in the world, the reality, the real cruel world history, it's all happening to us. Then what is the reason we believe it? So that's a mystery of the Bible. Bible is not story. Bible is history. And as all historian says, there's no principle, there's no order, there's no clear ending in this history. That's what worldly people think. But Bible is reporting God put God's story in this history. There actually is order. There actually is the principle. That's what we call providence. God is not like randomly things happen without order. In our perspective, we cannot understand, but actually in God's perspective, God is working in our history. It's just not known to us. And the reason it is not known to us, you all know. Genesis chapter 1 to 3, they explain to us. What does the Bible say from the very beginning? The world we live is the place and time where and when perfect, holy God decide to live with the imperfect, unholy people. That is our reality. Perfect, holy God stay with this imperfect and unholy people. And God does not manipulate our freedom. It's not like whenever we do the wrong thing, God says, no, this world should be perfect. It should be story, good ending. I'm going to cut you out before you do that. No, God doesn't do that. You know, right? God respects our freedom. And how much God respects our freedom? Until we make the total mistake and make things all mess, God's still watching. But not just watching, God get imbibed. Whenever we mess up, God come back and then try to fix it. You know that, right? First human beings, they were corrupted and hurt God so badly, God gave them clothes to wear. And second generation, they killed each other, God gave them mark to protect. And go on, whenever with the freedom God gave their mistake, that God come back, right? So if I kind of give like some, figuratively saying, like two people running together, they holding hands. One is an Olympic 100 meters, the world record person. And the other one was like a 10 years old boy, right? When they run together, they are different speed, but they're holding hands, right? And this boy keep, saying, don't go too fast. I cannot follow you, and crying and sitting down. Then this Olympic player, okay, I'll give you time. I'm going to wait. And after a certain time, wake up, get up, let's walk again. And time goes by, and until when? Until this 10 years old boy growing up, some moment following this Olympic medalist speed, and they kind of walking together. That is this world. That is the reason it's so confusing. God is here, but God is on our level. But at the same time, God is on our level. God keep pushing us. Let's go further. Not like you want me be like what you want to where you are, but let's move it together. That complicated situation make us feel like there's no order. What is God doing? God who listened to my prayer last time, why is not listening this time? Why it worked at that time? Why it's not working this time? Why is going on like that? That is this world. But God inviting us, come to the real world. You know why people do not come to the real world? Because of all the religion. That when people create the religion, except the Christian God, I keep saying that, except our God, every God is fake because they human made up God. And because of human made up God, they live only in myth. That means only in story. What those God do is very straightforward, right? Nothing's complicated because human made up the story, and they, all the idols, all the fake God, what human do? Give me protection, give me healing. Let my business go well. That's what all humans do, and then they expect those gods to do that way. But no God, human-made God, dare to come into history. If they come into history, they are embarrassed because they don't know what to do. Our God is only God come into history.
And this messed up place, like all the killing and massacre and then all the cruel things, God standing there, I'm ready to walk with you in this history. I'll bear this shame. I create you, but you messed up, I'm okay. I'm ready to go this history, move on with you. Follow me. Grow up. Face it. What are you afraid of? We can move on. Why you keep praying? Don't let those things happen. Instead of saying, don't let these things happen, you need to ask, what shall I do, God, for this case? Throughout all life and history, God keeps asking, so what shall you do? If this thing happen, what shall you do? And we need to ask, God, what shall I do? How can I do differently? But whole our life, we say, God, it's not about what I do. This bad thing happened. Please, you do something. Fix this problem. Change that person that who give me a hard time. And so, man, let my life go. We do not grow up. And we have used our religion in that way to receive fake comfort. But God, again, whole Bible is throughout history. God telling us, read it. Look at it. What's happening? It's not just made up the story that every beauty thing happened, everything straightforward. This complicating why that person made that decision. Read it. And you ask yourself, if you are that person's position, can you do differently? How will you do differently? God keep asking it. With this mindset, we're going to read through the book of Samuel. Okay? We're going to read the book of Samuel, not like a children version, the David of Goliath. We're going to read through the real history. And today is again the first day. I'm very excited to go with you. Today's story we said Elkanah, Hannah, Peninnah. You know this story, right? So book of Samuel starts with the Samuel's birth narrative. You know, Samuel is a really wonderful person, great person in history, and his mother Hannah. Even that name was very popular that my wife picked up that name. She was compared in Mary in New Testament. Hannah gave birth to Samuel. Mary gave birth to Jesus, and both of them miraculously, got over the difficult situation and have children, and then gave their child to God. And Hannah we will see next Sunday Hannah's beautiful hymn after this God's great work, and Mary gave also beautiful hymn. So they're very counterpart. They very the comparable each other. By the way, there are not many popular famous women characters in the Bible. I mean, who has a biblical name? Rachel, Esther, Hannah. Do you have more? Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel. Okay, yeah. Not that many names, but one of those few names. And we remember this story. Hannah gave her son to God, and that son become great. Right? That's what we remember. Let's just see what's really going on. So there was a man in Elkanah. Right? It's Hannah's husband. And his problem, he had 2 wives. Man with 2 wives always a problem. You know that, right? But he has 2 wives. And then, having 2 wives, let's say it is not his fault, it's culture. Okay? That culturally, they practiced the polygamy, and then there were many many wives. But what was his mistake? Always common mistake. When there's 2 people, you love one more than another. Right? That happened. Like Elkanah had 2 wives, and Hannah and Peninnah. Right? And it says Peninnah had children, but Hannah had not. It says a reason next verse. Elkanah, whenever he went to some place in the worship to sacrifice, he gave some portion to Peninnah and her children, but Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her. Isn't like there's a rule, like the mistake human make repeatedly coming again and again. Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, and we're not fair. We cannot loyal to the one person when you but the other person. We always, not fair. So Elkanah make this mistake that he loved Hannah. I definitely believe Hannah would be more beautiful. Right? That story go like that. There's 2 wives. One was more beautiful, the other was less beautiful, and husband liked the beautiful wife more than not beautiful wife. And then God get involved. How did God get involved? So because Elkanah gave a double portion to Hannah, not Peninnah, Lord has closed Hannah's womb. God tried to make the fair, right? This is more beautiful, this is less beautiful. The more beautiful, loved more by husband, less beautiful, loved less. There should be fair. Okay, I'm going to give her children, but not this, the loved one, not child. So God tried to make some balance. And it sounds good, but we mess up again. The Peninnah, though she was less loved, when she had her children. Maybe she could be satisfied there, but now she have a like privilege. Okay, my enemy. It says my rival, right? My rival, the one who took my husband's love, Hannah. See, you don't have a child, and I have a children. So her rival provoked, the Peninnah provoked Hannah until she wept and would not eat it. There are two things I want to talk about here. Think about Peninnah, right? When I read it, oh, what an evil woman there, why she provoked the other woman. But as I get older, life tells me how difficult it is when you less loved. When you desire love and recognition, when you receive less, how much you want to compete it, how much you want to get it. I feel like Peninnah's pain, her life. You know the photo that I just picked it up from Bible. I went to Google, like I just typed the 1 Samuel. This came up. Somebody drew like this. Like obviously the big one is Hannah, and because it's the main character, her face is really big. Was in sadness, and Peninnah with the children looks like happy, but look back. It's like family drama, like where every family go through something like that. So I think about Peninnah, and I take compassion on her. But at the same time, we also can ask, if I were her, if I were like that situation that I receive less respect, less love, less recognition, can I really do differently from Peninnah did? That question came up, right? And then when Peninnah, the rival provoked Hannah, so Hannah was really sorry. Now Elkanah, her husband, the one who caused all this trouble, now he got involved, right? And then verse 8, Elkanah, her husband, would say to Hannah, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? How did he respond to Hannah? Was it a good comforter? He is dumb. You know what I'm saying? He is simply dumb. He is the one who causes trouble. He is the one who's responsible to fix the problem. He is the one who needs to talk to Peninnah, who fixes life to give a fair life to both of them. So Peninnah is not living, like unhappy hell anymore. So Peninnah's heartbeat changed slowly. He didn't do it, right? And he went to the Hannah. And the question, how often have we made this mistake, which means you don't see the problem and you don't know what other people are going. And very superficially, why you suffer so much? What is the matter? Just get it over, right? That's nothing, right? That is something. The people struggle, but we don't go deeper about their struggle. We don't know why they have so much difficulty. This is, I think, the most common problem of husband and wife. One of them complain, and the other one say, why are you so bothered by that thing? It's like not a big thing. Like, no, it was a big thing. We are very superficial, don't understand other people's pain. That was what Elkanah doing. So go back to the Hannah. In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. She made a vow. Now the best part of the story. Oh Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery, remember me, not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him the greatest, one of the greatest men in history, Samuel, now is coming up. I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. So he will serve you, he will be priest, he will be prophet, and he will be the one who will anoint the first king of Israel, and I will give it to you, and I will raise him very specially. And we all think, Hannah picked up your name from Hannah because what a mom, right? But let me ask this. What was Hannah's motivation when she decided to give her son Samuel to God? Anger, revenge. My rival bothered me so much, provoked me. I will revenge her. Only if God give me son. It's like she really think, God, give me my son. With this son, I want this son serve you, be a man of God, and save his people Israel. Was that her motivation? No, she just I want to revenge. The one who provoked me so much because she has a children, I don't. I just need a child. Only if you give me, I'm gonna give him back to your Lord. If I were Hannah, I could be more fair. God, you can take on my beautiful face. You can take my husband's love. I'm okay to my husband's love if only I can have a child. I think that's more fair, right? She already have a privilege. husband's love. On top of that, her rival, her enemy, the Penina, only she has his child. Maybe she still shouldn't have misused this privilege of children, but she provoked her. Now her revenge time, give me children. When God gave children to Hannah, have you ever felt how would be the Penina's heart? Only thing she had, like my husband's love was Hannah took it. And Hannah is more beautiful. My life is miserable. Only the thing that I'm superior to Hannah is now children. Now Hannah has children too. This is a history. This is a reality. The things going on very complicated, though we just picked it up one beautiful part and we hope that is my life part. Now better things happen. God had me straightforward and my life is beautiful. And what I do be justified when I am an angry other person. There's a reason I was angry, right? When other people give me a hard time, there's a reason that I can pay back to them, right? That's how we try to read our life and justify who we are. But Bible says very cruel reality. Look at what's going on. Let me share one short story with you. Recently, something happened to me. Something very bothered me. The JJ went to the middle school and he went to the sports team, like a volleyball tryout, right? And there's two teams. I'm gonna go very quickly. Team A and Team B. Which team will be bigger? Better, right? Usually A is better than B. So Team A, Team B, and then coach put like 4 among the 6 volleyball players. 4 were experienced one in the Team A, while the 2 inexperienced one in Team A, and while they put the 2 experienced one in Team B, and then 4 experienced one in Team B. You know what I mean? So Team A gonna be a little stronger than Team B. So when they go to compete, they play without each other, right? And it's good that JJ experienced volleyball because in the church activity, and we expected as a Team A, one of 4 of them, but coach assigned him Team B. And on top of that, when he went to the middle school, he had a good friend who talked about volleyball, who played the volleyball together. They were about the same level, but one friend went to the Team A and the other friend on Team B. And he was crying, and then I don't want to play volleyball anymore. My friends are not there, and this team is not fun. You know what I'm saying, right? So I went to coach. And before I went to coach, I was praying, God, give me wisdom. Let me give it the right word to persuade the coach. Because the coach said, no, decision already made. Nothing can be changed. Then a miserable life my son will live, right? So I gave a prayer, God help me, and I went to the coach. Maybe I couldn't do that when Faith and Josephine was young, but this time Daddy will do the right thing. And I talked to the coach, I think very wisely, with a good attitude. And coach said, coach said, no, there's no difference between team and B. I understand, but he has a best friend in the team A. There's young boys, they don't have to go through a hard time in their sports, and then let him just play with his best friend and have fun. And okay, so bad. So he became Team A, right? And throughout the season, Team A's game was much more exciting, definitely the better player. It was really fun. It's a happy, good story, isn't it? Straightforward. The daddy did the right thing. But during the whole season, one thing really bothered me. What was the things bothered me? What about the boy who switched to JJ? So who already was a Team A who went to the Team B while JJ moved from Team B to Team A. It really bothered me. I didn't see that before because I thought I did the right thing and he's deserved to be Team A. That's what I thought, his ability. But that thing really bothered me. On top of that, if I just add one more thing, I feel like those may be switched, maybe parents cannot speak English well, or maybe they have less involvement in the church, school, so maybe I use my privilege as the one who, I don't know, socially economy better to talk to the team, coaches to give us some influence. Did I abuse my power? It really bothered me. Life could be easy. I did the right thing, give a benefit to the people I love. But if I see the bigger picture, there's some crack here and there. And I asked myself, if I go back there, can I do differently? No, I think I believe the right thing for my son. But was he righteous? This is really nothing. This is a really small story, but these kinds of things, so many here and there in our life. Life is we live in complicated relationship. And without any filter, Bible shows exactly how it was. We just try to read the one part of the story thinking that's our part, but the Bible doesn't say it that way. But what's the good news here? Samuel was born. In this family miserable drama that wives hate each other, husband do the wrong thing, it could go, actually they deserve the destruction of a family, but strangely, God gave Samuel in this family. And you know in the chapter 1 verse 1 what we read, there was a man in Elkanah. We just read in chapter 1 verse 1 in the book of Samuel, but do you know what's the book before the Samuel? Actually, original book, it was not Ruth, it was Judges. And at the end of Judges, massacre. The tribes, people killed each other. It was the darkest part of the history of Israel. That's all, and the people had done it. But strangely, Bible talk about God started again. And they messed up again, but where we killed, where we made a mistake, where we walked very selfishly, God keep putting something good there, move on history. And then the great things God has done in our history, we all know, where we killed the Son of God. When God gave the Son of God as a gift, we end up to killing him. But God resurrected him. And through this and through all the Bible, what God's saying, just go on, try to run, and face those things, the reality. It's okay, you fall. I can turn it over. It's okay when you end up the killing. I can resurrect them. Live life fully facing the real world. Because I got you back. Move forward instead of God, don't let those bad things happen. You are God of my protector. Instead of doing that, instead of just keep praying, don't let these things happen to me. Say, God, things like this. How should I do it? What should I do it? Maybe David made a mistake, but I have a Bible that I could see the role model. He did wrong. As a person who know how David did in this situation, can I do differently? Can I walk differently? Can I make the different decision? And we fail again. But God keep giving opportunity. You can make things do again. You can make the different decision, live life. So walk with me. Stand where I stand. Stand firm on the reality. History, there's so many things you cannot do right now. But don't give it up. If we walk with me, I will let you see what I see. I will let you walk as I walk. I will let you run as I run. You can be a peacemaker. You can put the broken things together. You can give the comfort, true comfort, not fake one, to the people. Grow up in the life where I give you and move on. That's Bible. All the story in the people in the Bible went through that way, and that is real life. God is inviting us to walk with Him. Let's pray.